Good morning, Grinders. Welcome to RotoGrinders Today. I'm Jordan Cooper, a.k.a. Blender at BlenderHD. If you want to follow me on Twitter. And it's Friday, September 20th, and we'll be taking a look at the Week 3 NFL DFS slate on DraftKings for GPPs. How do you win those large field contests? Well, tune in and find out. Hit that thumbs up button. Hit that thummy thumbs. Give me those thummy thumbs. Yeah, you see the thumbs going across the screen. That's a thumb for John. That's not another appendage. It kind of could look like a little. It could look good. Okay, whatever. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Double header. Double header. One for her pleasure. But Hit that thumbs up button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the notification bell to know when we go live. We got plenty of content today on the channel. We got the solo ship show with obviously John. Squirrel Patrol here. We got tournament taste. We got the Blitz show. We got all of our premium content coming out today. So subscribe to RotoGrinders Premium. We're running a special for NFL. You just get NFL. It's $15 off your first month. If you want $40 off your first month of Combo Premium, where you get like all the sports, you could do that too. The info is in the description below. But join with me as always on Fridays to talk about correlation and leverage and stacks and all the stuff that you need to know to build your lineups to win those GPPs. It's a guy that did it last week. You did it again. I love your Twitter bio. Your Twitter bio says it's the guy that you always see above you on DraftKings and FanDuel, and you did it on FanDuel, right? You got what was that, 20K, 200K?
Yeah, 200.
And you also highlighted last week that like everyone in your lineup was essentially everyone that you tagged in lineup HQ.
Yeah. So I was super angry at myself after week 1. I kind of was joking about it on all my shows last week that they had asked me one guy's going to score a touchdown, who's going to land on the millionaire winning lineup that nobody's on. And I said Alec Pierce, and then I didn't play him. I didn't have the combination that I had tagged of Richardson, Mixon, and then throwing in Alec Pierce. And so then last week I was I'm putting in a bunch of the guys I've got tagged, which I should do every week. And it's just you start running lineups and it's I didn't really end up as much of this guy as I thought I would, but it's okay. I got to get the lineup. No, I'm getting Alvin Kamara in there. I'm getting CeeDee Lamb in there. And I'm getting Marvin Harrison Jr. in there, and yeah, it worked out thankfully. So kind of let some of the aggrievement of week 1 go past.
Well, the thing about FanDuel GPPs as opposed to DraftKings is that FanDuel scoring and pricing doesn't necessarily lead itself to super stacking games and doing doubles and triples of teams. Because the pricing is soft enough where you don't have to play, some second level receiver or some real cheap tight end, where a lot of times, you're playing more of a game. Maybe you're playing 2 or 3 people from a game, but for the most part, the rest of your lineup is I'm just going to play a $7,700 running back that scores 3 touchdowns, or I'm going to play a $6,800 wide receiver that ends up with 100 yards. You don't have to dive deeper into the abyss with $4,200 receivers and $3,200 tight ends like you do on DraftKings. So there is a strategic difference as well on FanDuel where you're probably not super stacking, but on DraftKings, as we talk about on this show, there's a lot more advantageous being advantageous to picking the right game environment and having 3 or 4 pieces from that game.
Yeah, definitely. And I still stacked. I still stack on FanDuel, and that lineup was a little bit stacked. I think it had Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison, and Trey McBride. But McBride was 30% on the tight end. He was way too cheap on FanDuel. And it's true on FanDuel, the pricing doesn't go down as low. And so it's interesting, some of the plays on that we talk about on DraftKings, I'm thinking of Yoshi Voss or whatever, the 3K wide receiver is going to be like 5,000 on FanDuel. And so it's not, but it's funny because like every once in a while I'll see like the DraftKings really cheap wide receiver will be like 10 or 15% owned on FanDuel. I'm like, it's nowhere near as good a play. like somebody was reading content that was focused on DraftKings and like putting it into their FanDuel lineups. You generally like make much stronger lineups on FanDuel just because you have kind of more salary to work with. The salary is a little bit softer. And so it does lead to situations where you just have the salary. So you go with the star wide receiver or star running back rather than trying to like jam in somebody that just like is cheap but like fits with the stack or whatever.
Right. Well, let's talk about this week. We got 12 games, it looks like. A healthy amount of late games. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They split it up nicely, 7 and 5. We got some games that have really good totals. We have some games that have really bad ones, right? So this, I think a lot of the chalk is condensed around, 2 or 3 of these games, but there are some games. There are some sneaky teams that and sneaky games possibly, and we also have some obvious value on certain teams, and certain positions. So I think it'll lead to constructions that you'll see a lot of combinatorically. If people have Jordan Mason here, they probably have this guy. If they have Brandon Ayuk, they got that guy. Like Devonta Smith probably has this team built around him. So we'll talk about that. We throw it up on the board. We got our tiers, right? We always talk about it in terms of tiers, and we try to just to appease John's ADD, try to make him as bell curve as possible. So we still need
OCD, yeah. Yeah.
Whatever. We A, B, C, D, F. Well, that's what we need.
Yeah.
And these tiers, remember, these are for stacks. So it's a quarterback like 2, 3, and we'll talk about game stacks. We'll talk about all that type of stuff. So we end up with all the teams on the slate on the tiers, but I also have, our projections here that you can get if you're a premium member. So let's start with the first game that we're going to click through at 1:00 Eastern. We got the Giants. We got the Browns. Normally, I'd say we should X this game out. The total is 39.5. The Browns have a 23 implied team total, which is like not like awful on the slate. I mean, like that's not that bad. I don't think people trust either of these quarterbacks. But guys like Amari Cooper and Malik Neighbors are guys that individually have ceiling outcomes in them. And to be fair, so does Deshaun Watson and technically Daniel Jones as well. Do you think it's odd that I'm only playing like 10 lineups today on Sunday? I want to play a Deshaun Watson, Amari Cooper, Malik Neighbors lineup. Am I nuts for putting the Browns based on just like on ownership purposes also like as a B tier team?
Oh wow. I was gonna put them in the C tier, and I thought that was gonna be like surprisingly high. But I am seeing the same thing that you are. That the Browns have like kind of if you like look at just the implied point totals of the teams, like there's some teams that people are like lining to play up that don't have as high an implied point total as the Browns.
Right.
I will say that I think you haven't like reloaded lineup HQ in a while, because I think if you reload it, you'll see the implied point total of the Browns has dropped like 22.5, I think.
Okay, well that's still decent. It's not under 20.
Right. No, but like there's like it's still like kind of competitive in terms of like the the teams on the slate. I would say B. I could be talking to B. So I would probably put them in C. I think they're going to see some ownership, and like when I like run kind of optimal type lineups, I do start getting some Deshaun Watson on DraftKings like pretty like earlier than I would think. And so I think other people will too. I think the play that I'm most interested in from this game is probably the Browns defense. So I'd probably be putting the Giants down in F. Like I think going into Cleveland is going to be tough for teams this year with their defense. So But yeah, I want to get my Malik Neighbors exposure. I want to have some Malik Neighbors exposure. I want to get it from some kind of Deshaun Watson stack. Like running it back with Neighbors. I'll Yeah, and I think Amari Cooper is probably the top play that I'm going to get to from the Browns. But there's a guy that's kind of on the border of tagging consideration for me. That's like a guy that's seeing sub 2% ownership, which is Dante Foreman. He's only 4,400 on DraftKings. And this could be a game where just the Browns take a commanding lead, like the Giants defense or the Giants offense just can't get anything going. And they're just running the ball. And Foreman has been taking on more and more of the carries. So I think that he's only 4,400. He could end up getting a bunch of touches on the ground. But could also end up being a Jerome Ford week too. So you're not going to go crazy with Foreman. I just think he's being completely overlooked when he should, at that price tag, he should maybe be somebody that people have in mind, especially if we don't get some of the cheap backup running backs we're hoping to get.
Okay. So I'm going to I'm going to be bold and put the Browns at B for our tiers. Okay. And I'll agree with you that I'm not really interested in playing the Giants, but really, although we're talking primarily stacks, if you think playing Deshaun Watson is crazy, I think I could still just play Amari Cooper as a one-off, or even Malik Neighbors as a one-off. These are the types of receivers, especially a lot of the receivers that are going to be being played this week are going to be in the 6K range, and it's not going to be these two guys. It's going to be other 6K receivers, and I think these guys both have. I mean, if you told me that Amari Cooper went 7 for 115 with 2 touchdowns, I'm not shocked. And if you told me that Neighbors did something like that also, I'm not shocked either. Those are the types of receivers I want to play. I don't want to be stuck with DeMarcus Robinson in my lineup because I don't think DeMarcus Robinson has that in his range.
Yeah. I'd be more surprised if Neighbors does that, but I agree. It's not impossible. And we have the Giants in F, so we can't put them lower.
Okay, next game is inside in the dome. We got the Bears at the Colts, 43.5 total. This is going to be a pretty low-owned game. It's inside. It's we have Anthony Richardson is a rushing quarterback, which has much more value than the pocket passers. It's 6,700. He could easily 30+ points on any given day. Problem is, Bears defense is pretty good. Secondly, I'm not sure who you stack him with. I mean, Michael Pittman may be not a thing anymore at 6,100. And then on the Bears side, I mean, if you watch the last game in prime time, the Bears offense is #not good. I think it's more likely I play the Colts and the Bears defense, either of these defenses in this game. But I have to point out that, obviously there's Jonathan Taylor there at 7,300. I'm not sure I get to even him as a one-off. I think Richardson has a ceiling. The question is it worth it? I mean, I feel like I'd almost rather just eat Kyler Murray chalk at 6,900 and pair Kyler Murray with people than try to play a Richardson, Pierce, Pittman, add Mitchell at 4K. It's quite possible that Anthony Richardson has 2 touchdowns on 40 yards, 50 yards rushing, and only has 88 yards passing, right? For nothing. And this, I like Richardson by himself ceiling. I just don't know what the stack would be. So, I'm putting the Colts at D.
I would put them at C, but I'm a big Anthony Richardson fan, so I might be biased. I don't know.
But what's the stack, John? That's the problem with it. What's the stack?
So Josh Downs is supposed to come back this week, I think. So that's a $4,700 wide receiver that might be off, out of sight, out of mind for people. And so I think that there's some sneakiness to the Josh Downs stack. But I agree. Chicago's a good defense, so. But it is an indoor environment. I'm going to give the environment and Josh Downs coming back. I'm going to give the Colts a C. I don't really want to play any Bears. I'd put the Bears maybe up in D. just indoor environment. And I would have interest in running back Anthony Richardson with some of like DJ Moore. I think Keenan Allen seems likely to miss, so that likely maybe puts a little bit more on DJ Moore's plate. And then Caleb Williams, you would expect him to maybe get better as the season goes along. I could see myself playing like a Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Josh Downs kind of stack, maybe even Jonathan Taylor. Like that's going to be completely different. It's like this is like a large field, single digit percentage kind of play, but I think it's viable. It's not like I wouldn't be like stunned if DJ Moore goes out there and gets 120 yards. Right. That kind of game. Caleb Williams has his first, really big, good game in the NFL. Like it's unlikely to happen, but it's probably more than like 1% chance.
Right. This is the type of stack that you play, and then the rest of your lineup is just pure chalk. Yeah. Right. You're plugging in you're plugging Mason and Devonta Smith in this lineup. You're playing all the stars. Charbonnet's in this lineup too. You're playing just like, and then your 1% on guys are just the Bears and the Colts guys.
Yeah, exactly. I think that works.
Okay, we got the next game. The Texans at the Vikings, 46 implied total. We are currently projecting right now Cam Akers to start over Mixon, although not all projected systems are doing that as of now. And that's going to matter a lot, especially on FanDuel. Because on FanDuel, Cam Akers is 4K. I feel as if this game is weirdly enough going to go under-owned. I think a lot of people are going to play Eagles Saints. A lot of people are going to play Lions Cardinals. I think, and then obviously the 49ers players, because guys are out and they still have a 25 implied team total. So Ayuk and Kittle and Juwan Jennings and whatever. I think people like playing the Texans. It's just that I think the Texans are actually going to be low owned on the slate because Stroud is expensive, and like Collins is 7,300 and Diggs is 6,600. Tank Dell will be owned at 5,200. And then if Akers is the play, he'll be owned. And then I'm not sure how many people are going to be playing like Sam Darnold plus Justin Jefferson type of lineups. But I feel like if other games fail, this could be a game that this could be a 35-28 type of game. The problem here is figuring out how to stack it because there's a lot of pieces that could go off. And I put it in the same boat as the Lions-Cardinals game of like the game environment, way too many ways to stack it. Good luck figuring out if it gets spread out too far. But I don't mind taking those shots in a game where people aren't playing. And I mean, how do they spread it out to all these chalky pieces is a different story than how do I spread it out to all these 5% owned, 8% owned players? That's a different story. I feel like CJ Stroud. I mean, I'd rather probably play from the Darnold side because it's cheaper. But I mean, being that passing is dead these days, CJ Stroud could be like the only quarterback that goes over 300 yards, and maybe him. I mean, just Stroud Dell could be enough. You play Stroud Dell Jefferson type of lineups or something like that. Are you thinking in the same way that I am? Do you have a feeling that outside of like maybe Tank Dell and Cam Akers, like this game goes kind of not unowned, but under-owned because they're just other players in this like 6K range that people are going to play, and people are going to more likely play Hurts and Murray rather than Stroud.
Yeah, I agree. I think that this is a good game environment. Like it's indoors. We've got one of the best offenses in the NFL. That like is potentially an improving offense as well. You've got now a really cheap piece potentially in Cam Akers. I'm kind of assuming he's going to be the starter. We have to see like what happens with Joe Mixon and Dameon Pierce in practice today. But yeah, I can be talked into A. I was going to maybe put them in B, but yeah, and then you've got a 2-point spread indoors with some capable offenses, some big stars. So Yeah, I agree. I think I want to play some Tank Dell. He's somebody that like isn't really being talked about. I think a lot of people are just gonna presumably just click on Cam Akers and leave this game alone. And I think that's a mistake. Like you can stack this game, yeah, from either side, with Houston or Minnesota. Like it's gonna be interesting. The expensive wide receivers are not gonna see any ownership this week.
Right.
But we have a bunch of value at running back. But we have a bunch of kind of good value in the 6K range at wide receiver as well. So guys like Justin Jefferson are going to be completely looked over. Ownership, like the actual ownership, is going to be really interesting on Sunday because I do think like ownership always kind of concentrates on the guys that are perceived to be the best plays. I think we'll see some guys get really steamed, and then some of the guys that we're showing with ownership we're not really talking about are going to end up under owned, or at least with less ownership than we're showing. But yeah, I think Texans up in B, Vikings in C. I could be talked into a grade letter above for either one. Like I like the Texans more than the Browns. I like the Vikings more than the Colts.
So yeah, so let's do that. Let's do A and B like that. Because I take a look, like projection wise, Nico Collins and Justin Jefferson for their price, from a mean perspective, are not really values. I mean, like Nico Collins is like fairly priced, and Justin Jefferson is like a little bit overpriced. But like for their ceiling, it's like, dude, these guys can put up their 30, 40 fantasy points. Like, yeah, it's a little less likely, but if you're getting them at, if you're getting Nico Collins and if you're getting Justin Jefferson at 4%, like he's someone that can break the slate. Like I don't care that his mean is only 18 instead of 20. It's like, yeah, but his 80th percentile outcome is 42. So like,
Right.
So like that's what I'm aiming for in GPPs. I don't, if Justin Jefferson only gives me 20 points, who cares, right? But you're not going to see 20 points. Josh Downs ain't giving you 40 points, right? You're not going to be playing those types of receivers and get that type of ceiling. So especially when there's value of, you mentioned it, there's enough value that if Tua wasn't knocked out, we'd be looking to say, well, how do we? Well, obviously we're playing Tyreek, right? I mean, like, and then no one's playing Tyreek this week either. So, like, I mean, like these high-priced wide receivers, no matter what their means are, I feel as if we should be targeting them a lot more on this slate because we have the ability to without having to really like punt at with some like $3,500 wide receiver that gives us 3 points.
Yeah.
Let's go to the next game. This is going to be a chalky game. Eagles at Saints, 49.5 total. We got Hurts, we got Smith, we got Olave, we got Kamara, we got Shaheed, we got Barkley. It's the thing I like about this game, John. It's a pretty condensed, like targets. It's like if you stack this game, you don't have to really worry about like if this game goes over, the people that you have are probably doing well because it's going to be Hurts plus Smith plus Goddard or something like that. It's going to be Carr plus Olave plus Shaheed plus, one of the tight ends or something. I mean, you could always play Kamara and Barkley by themselves as run backs. They're affordable, but it's not cheap. It's not cheap, but you could build around. You could easily build a Hurts, Devonta Smith, Kamara lineup, right? And still like the rest of your lineup. You're probably punting a tight end, but that's no big deal. How much do you like this game ownership adjusted though? When Devonta, where the two primary receivers in this game are going to be like two of the top 5 owned wide receivers of the entire slate.
Yeah, I think it's okay. Like I agree. I don't want to get a mindset of like seeing a really good game environment and knowing that other people are seeing the same thing and going, well, I can't play it because other people like sometimes everybody's just right. And so I'm going to put the Eagles up in B. I would put the Saints in A.
The Saints in A.
Yeah.
I thought you'd want the Eagles above the Saints.
No, the Eagles are much more expensive. Other than Devontae Smith, like Jalen Hurts is expensive. Saquon Barkley is expensive. And I don't know that I want to get to anybody else. Like Dallas Goedert just doesn't seem as involved as you would think with AJ Brown out. I think the Saints are much more affordable. Like Derek Carr is the most underpriced quarterback, I think, on the slate. And so, if we're talking stacks, generally starting a quarterback, and like Carr is the first. Like when I start looking at like dummy lineups, like Derek Carr is the first guy I clicked on. It's 5,800. It's just too cheap. And then you can pair him with the running back Alvin Kamara. You can pair him with Chris Olave. I like Rashid Shaheed. You can even get creative with some of the cheap tight ends. So yeah, I would put the Saints as a Eagles. I like them, and then I would. I'm gonna have like a lot of Derek Carr or Devontae Smith lineups, but I put them in B. They're a little bit too pricey.
Well, I mean, the thing about the Eagles though is that Jalen Hurts for a quarterback, I mean, he has a super ceiling because of rushing and touchdowns. So that's why, like, I almost feel like I'd rather play it from the Hurts side and just play Hurts +1, right? Hurts plus Devonta Smith plus one of Kamara, Olave, or Shaheed, and then you go, oh, great, you're playing like mostly chalk. It's like, okay, that's a lineup that I have an Amari Cooper one-off. That's a lineup that I have. Like, you have to think of it like the other way of, if you play it the chalky way, you have to get lower one-offs type of pieces. But I get it what you say about Derek Carr, but I'm not necessarily convinced that the Saints offense is going to put up, 35, 40 points every game. So, and it's still Derek Carr, and especially in large field contests where you get a lot of casual people, building lineups on their toilet, they're going to look at the, FPPG. They're going to look at, what happened the past 2 weeks and go, well, the Saints, I mean, they're like the Kurt Warner led, 2000 LA Rams now, with Marshall Faulk and Isaac Bruce and all those guys. So they're going to act like the Saints are the nuts. So that's why I just think this game in general is going to be overowned. So truthfully, if you want to go by ownership, I'd even bump them down just to I'd rather play the Texans than play the Saints, just ownership purposes. Are you okay with me bumping these down a peg just because of ownership?
I think people actually overestimate the Eagles defense. Like the Eagles, I think the toilet lineup people are maybe not going to play the Saints enough. The Eagles gave up the second most passing yards per game last season. I think they are giving up the second most third most total yards per game this season. I think the Saints could end up scoring 40 points again, and they're not priced like it. Like I know what you're saying. Like the Saints are going to see heavy ownership because of what they've done the first 2 weeks. They may not see high enough ownership, considering they're playing the Eagles defense at home indoors.
Okay. Well, they do have a 26.25 implied team total. Let's go to okay, we got a quickie.
Yeah.
We got the Chargers at the Steelers with a, what does it look like? Let me 35.5 total. What is there to say other than I don't know if I'll have a single person. Could you take a shot on like Najee Harris or like the running backs? Even that I don't even want to do. Even the defenses are expensive. And maybe if I get up to the Chargers or the Steelers defense, sure, I guess I could play him. Do you have any interest in any capacity in a Justin Fields, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth lineup? Or are we throwing, truthfully, I'd rather play the Steelers than the Chargers, but not by much. If I could only put one of them in F, I'd probably put the Chargers in F and the Steelers in D. But you could make a case for them to be under F. Is there anything to say about this game? Is there anything interesting that you're like, oh, I think you could play some 1% owned guy that, goes for 70 points or something. I don't think that's this game.
Yeah, I'd put both of these teams in F. I'm more interested in the defenses than any other aspect. I do think with 100, if you have 150 lineups, if you're doing that, then you could do worse. Well, yeah, I think they would be fine to have one or two like Justin Fields, George Pickens, like skinny stacks, and then like game stacking some of the other higher owned games, right? If Pickens gets 140 yards, 2 touchdowns, which is possible. Like we've seen him get the 80-yard touchdown we've seen Justin Fields add a bunch of points with his legs. That if you have that kind of skinny under-owned stack, and then you're game stacking the rest of the games, yeah, I could do Steelers D, Chargers F. I think
I'm not playing that. Very similar to my MLB tiers. D is on the tiers of like, you're not crazy for doing it, but I'm not. Right? It's like exactly. that level. F is kind of like you're crazy. D is you're not crazy, but I'm not that crazy.
I think the defenses might go under-owned. And so that's something to keep in mind.
Next game, we got this game won't see that much ownership, maybe on one guy, maybe. The Broncos at the Buccaneers. That is a 40.5 total. Godwin will be owned. I guess Rachaad White may have a little bit of ownership, I guess. The Broncos are bad. They're offensively bad. Defensively, they're not too shabby. Baker Mayfield has performed above expectations. This is a team that's easy to stack, right? You kind of know where the ball is going. And not many people are going to play the Buccaneers with a 23.5 total. Mike Evans is going to go at under-owned the same way that Nico Collins, just a little overpriced for the salary. But we've seen Mike Evans have 100 yards and 2 touchdowns in plenty of games. I don't think anyone's. Do you have any interest in the Bo Nix side of this? I don't think so. So where are we putting the Bucks and the Broncos? Because I don't think the game environment is good. It's not as bad as the Chargers Steelers, but is this enough not to just I could play one of the Bucks as a one-off and move on.
Yeah, I very little interest in this game. I would put the Broncos in F until they show something, and honestly, I'd put Tampa Bay in D. C or D. I the piece I want to play from this game is the Tampa Bay running back. I just don't know if it's Bucky Irving or Rachaad White. I'll end up with some Rachaad White in my lineups, assuming it's Rachaad White. And I feel like we've done this for almost a decade now with the Tampa Bay running backs, where it's always the backup that's way more popular, and we're just waiting for that backup to take over. But then sometimes the starter just keeps going out there week after week after week, getting inefficient opportunities and adding some receptions. So I'd do Tampa Bay and D. All right, we can do C.
Well, would you rather? I'd rather play the Bucks than the Bears or the Steelers.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and
I'm trying to get these to be a bell curve. Help me out. We got to put things in C. Okay, help me out. I don't want to have two humps here. I want to have a nice curve. A nice curve. We want to end that way.
You know what? It kind of is with two humps.
Yeah, you're right. This is a two humps type of slate. To put it, I don't know how YouTube is gonna interpret that sentence, but it is a two
with the thumbs. Yeah, we're running into.
Yes. Okay, this is a quickie. Also, the Packers at the Titans with a 38 implied total. Will Levis versus Malik Willis or Jordan Love. I prefer this game with Jordan Love at quarterback. But even so, I think if I'm playing anyone from this game, I'm playing the defenses and the running backs. I'm playing Josh Jacobs and Tony Pollard, and I'm not thrilled about playing either of those guys. The Titans defense will be decently owned. The Packers defense is there against Will Levis. I don't mind that. Are you playing a Malik Willis? Someone, Jaden Reed? Are you playing Will Levis plus Ridley plus Boyd? Dude, I almost feel like give me Fields plus Pickens, because at least I know where the ball is going. And these are teams where Malik Willis may only throw the ball 10 times, and Will Levis may throw 10 interceptions before he throws 10 completions. Are you going to surprise me and say that, I actually like the environment in this game?
Yeah. Again, I would put both of the teams in F. It's a two humps week. I actually need to catch up on the injury news for this game, because I think Jaden Reed might be dinged up. I think obviously Jordan Love may or may not come back. I feel like Jordan Love's probably going to come back. I don't know. Like he was listed as questionable. Like seemed to like have talked himself into getting listed as questionable last week, and then I think he's going to try to come back this week. I'm not sure it matters. I just don't have a.
Do you want to play? Do you want to play Watson? Do you want to play Dobbs? Do you want to play any of these? I mean, do you want to play anyone?
Nah, like looking at almost, both teams almost have an implied run total of 20 or less. Like the Titans are at 20.25, Green Bay's at 17.75. Yeah, this is a 2F game.
Right. And I'm changing our tiers because you said it's okay. So instead of we're going for the bell curve, we're actually going to go for the 2 humps. So actually, we're going to make it so that maybe there's not much in the C tier at all, right? Yeah. So we're going to try to even it out. I don't think we can get as many A teams as we're going to get F teams. So it may be 2 humps that are skewed a little bit on this slate. Let's move on to the late slate, the late set of games. We got Miami at Seattle. Game total is 41.5. Obviously, Skylar Thompson will be in for the Dolphins. The Seahawks project pretty well. This is a weird game. On DraftKings, Devon Achane is going to be one of the highest owned running backs, even though he's playing for a team that is a road underdog with an 18.5 implied team total. And he'll be higher owned than the 6K running back that's going to see 100% of the work for the favorite. And then we got the Seattle passing stack actually projects very well this slate. It's in our optimal sims. Geno Smith is the highest chances of being the optimal quarterback. And then we have Tyreek Hill, who doesn't project very well mean-wise. That will be we're projecting to be 2% owned. What do you think about this game? Could be an ugly game. Or this game could be, I mean, if the Seahawks decide to actually try to do what they did last week, I mean, this game could actually have a ton of points, and at these prices could hit their ceilings. But it could also be the type of game where they lean on the run. Both teams tend to lean on the run, and it ends up being 16-10.
Yeah, I think I'm going to end up under the field on this game. Geno Smith is seeing a lot of ownership. Devon Achane seeing a lot of ownership. I'm not sure I totally understand it. I don't know. Like the Tua being out is a big impact, and you have to figure that's going to impact how both teams maybe approach this game. I agree. Like Charbonnet is really underpriced at 6,000, so I'll definitely be getting a lot of Charbonnet. Another nice glass of Charbonnet this week. I'll be playing some like Jackson Smith, but I don't know. I don't like. I think we're showing Geno Smith as being the highest owned quarterback or one of the highest owned quarterbacks. I'm not sure I want to have more Geno Smith than any other quarterback on this slate. I mean, he's underpriced at 5,600. I feel like I'd rather play Carr. Then Devon Achane, I don't know. Like, yeah, I mean, obviously you can always break big games, but I think maybe the lack of a threat of passing is really going to hurt this offense. So we'll see what happens, but like I would put the Dolphins in C, and the Seahawks in B.
Okay, the Dolphins in B. We're trying to get the 2 humps. So you'd rather play the Dolphins than the Bears, the Bucks, and the Steelers. Yeah, I guess that would be right. I'd rather take a shot on Skylar Thompson actually being halfway decent and throwing to Tyreek for 150 yards than Caleb Williams, right? I mean, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to the next game. We got okay, this should be a not as quick as it maybe should be, but quick enough. The Panthers at the Raiders. This is a 40 total. Looks like a 40 total. Andy Dalton in at quarterback for the Panthers. So whatever reason, Zamir White doesn't project all that well, but I mean, he'll probably low owned at running back. People want to play Brock Bowers at 5,400. You got Devontae Adams there. Like, the Raiders are actually throwing the ball a lot more over expectation than like a lot of other teams. Minshew plus Adams plus Bowers, you can play. And most projection systems are assuming that Deontay Johnson will have a pulse with Andy Dalton at quarterback. I'm skeptical about that, even though he's 4,900. This is a weird game where I'm naturally inclined to just want to play Zamir White and the defenses, but I mean Devontae Adams could get you 30 fantasy points. I mean Brock Bowers at tight end, he could have 8 catches and a touchdown or 2. I'm not scared of the Panthers defense, obviously. I don't think many people are going to play it either. So, like, what are your thoughts on the Raiders? I mean, you're probably playing it from the Raiders side than the Panthers side. What are you doing here? Are you more likely to avoid this game?
I think I'm more likely to avoid it. I'd just rather go to the other game environments. I think there's going to be a temptation to go to like the Panthers and say, well, Andy Dalton's in, and maybe it was all just Bryce Young. My guess is this whole team is just a mess. I was going to put them both a tier lower.
Okay, no, I'm fine with that. I'm going towards I'm fighting the bell curve versus the 2 humps.
I think this is maybe a situation where too many people are going to go. But what if, and because there are a lot of unknowns. We're getting Andy Dalton instead of Bryce Young, so maybe Deontay. Like we're showing Deontay Johnson with 13% ownership. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't see enough points being scored in this game where I really want to run out and stack it. I could see, Gardner Minshew, Devontae Adams, Bowers, or something, and you want to throw in like a Chuba Hubbard or Deontay Johnson. I guess that's fine. I would maybe do it once in 150. Maybe, once in 150.
Right. So it's like you're not crazy, but I'm not doing it, right?
Yeah. Even with 150 lineups, when you take one and to do something like, well, this could happen, like that's almost 1% of your, of your portfolio, right? Like that's a thing where you're trying to get like a 10% ROI. You can spend too many of these, like, well, just one off, lineups. So.
Right. Next thing you know, 30 of your lineups look like 30 points under projected lineups, and you're like, yeah, I wasted 20% of my lineups on like just trash.
Yeah. You could do the Andy Dalton lineup, and you could do a Gardner Minshew lineup. I don't know if I'd do a bunch, like more than one.
Okay, next game. This is gonna be a chalky game. It's the highest total on the slate. It's 51.5. It's the Lions at the Cardinals. Kyler Murray, Trey McBride. We got all the pieces on the Lions. Jared Goff stacks to Amon-Ra St. Brown. Jamison Williams at 5,800. You got James Conner there. You got David Montgomery. You got Marvin Harrison Jr. at 7,400. Michael Wilson at 4,100. Sam Laporta at 6,000. And on. Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm listing all the people that could do well in this game. I like the game environment. I think the game environment is very good. The question comes in to how do you stack it? And if you're going to, this seems like the type of game that, if you really like this game, that's where you're going to have to get rid of all your Andy Dalton and your Justin Fields lineups, because you're going to have to stack this like 30 different ways in order to cover enough of the combinations for it to be worth it to stack. So, like, that's my concern about this game is not the game environment, just getting the pieces right. And it's quite possible that these offenses are spread out enough that no one becomes a must-have. Like, they become a fine to have, but no one scores, 25 plus points. And you're like, yeah, well, if you didn't have Amon-Ra St. Brown with 38, if you didn't have Marvin Harrison Jr. with 30, if you didn't have Jahmyr Gibbs with 32 points, if you didn't have Trey McBride with 26, it's like that, you can't win a GPP. Like, it's quite possible that, it's just like Amon-Ra St. Brown is 24, Jamison Williams is 16, and James Conner is 15. I mean, like, you get in that range where they could show up in winning lineups. A stack of this game could be possible with the right one-offs, but I don't know. I mean, I'm saying the same thing kind of what I said last week about the Lions. It's just they have so many mouths to feed that Like, can I take a shot on Amon-Ra St. Brown? Sure. Can I take a shot on Jahmyr Gibbs? Sure. But do I really want to play a $6,500 get Jared Goff? Maybe not.
I don't know. I like this game. I don't know that I want to skip over a game or play less of a game because there's so many pieces. They can go berserk. I'd put the Cardinals up in A, and I would put the Lions in B. I agree. You have to make some choices, and I tend to look at this from like a 150 or multi-line perspective. But yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, just set some rules, like lock in some players from this game, and let lineup HQ do its thing, right? Like say, I want to play Kyler Murray with 3 pieces from this game. I want to play Jared Goff with 3 pieces from this game. See what you get, and I do think that you can sit down and look at the prices and look at who else is at each position and make some like difficult choices. But there are some ways to play this game that I think make a lot of sense. I won't necessarily look to get over the field on Amon-Ra St. Brown because he's expensive, and it seems like it's becoming like a really spread out offense. But like Jameson Williams is only 5,800. Like, you can make a bunch of Jameson Williams teams, with him being priced 5,800. Like, David Montgomery is only 6,100. It's not going to take much to get over the field. Go back to Marvin Harrison Jr. Like, when I think about this game, I kind of think the same thing that you do. Like, it's so hard to like figure out who would land on the winning lineup, even if this game is the highest scoring game of the week. But then I think, well, I then want to go to the pieces that can really break the slate. So like Marvin Harrison Jr. could break this slate. Like, what if last week was just the beginning? I mean, that's kind of his draft pedigree and his draft profile, and the way people are drafting him in their best ball teams and season-long teams, was that this should be one of the best wide receivers in the league, and he's not priced like it right now. And he started to show last week that he might be one of the best wide receivers in the league. So, like, maybe he's actually really underpriced at 7,400. So I could go back to Marvin Harrison Jr. and then Trey McBride, is somebody, he could easily be the highest scoring person at the tight end position. So it's true, you have to start finding some salary savers, but we might have like a 4,700 Cam Akers. We might have a bunch of cheap pieces this week. So, I would say like you could do like a Kyler Murray, just force in like Marvin Harrison and Trey McBride and Jameson Williams, and hope you have enough salary to like make a reasonable rest of your lineup.
Right, and he also did mention the fact that Kyler Murray himself at 6,900 at quarterback, he could score 30 points at the quarterback position that a lot of these pocket passer types can't necessarily do. If he's scrambling for 70 yards and scoring a touchdown is worth a lot more than, Jared Goff putting up 303. Yeah. Next game on the slate, this is a game that I don't mind targeting because I think it's going to be underowned. The Ravens at the Cowboys. 47.5 total. We're not talking about, this is not a low total game. From a mean perspective, the players in this game do not project great, right? You have Zay Flowers at 6,800, probably a little bit overpriced. And they're going to be other 6K receivers that are going to be played. CeeDee Lamb at 8,800. No one's playing like high-end wide receivers or anything. Lamar Jackson. More people would be willing to play Hurts or Murray than Lamar. You had Dak Prescott there at 6,600. I don't think anyone's playing that. Mark Andrews at 4,800 at the tight end. If Jake Ferguson is back, he's 4,500 at tight end. Like, these are two teams that they need to win this game, right? Definitely the Ravens. I mean, am I nuts for wanting to play like a Prescott, Lamb, Flowers lineup, or a Jackson, Flowers, Andrews, Lamb type of lineup? I mean, you're paying Detroit, Arizona prices for it, but I just take a look at this game and I go, I don't know if anyone is going to be double-digit owned in this game. And would I be shocked if Zay Flowers has, a long touchdown and he breaks one for, 100 yards, or CeeDee Lamb goes, 13 for 130 with a touchdown or something, or Lamar Jackson rushes for 100 yards? I mean, I think it's obviously less likely. That's why it's projected lower. But I don't see, especially with all these other 4:00 games that people want to play. Like, why can't they take a shot on this game? Do you think I'm nuts for paying these prices for this game?
No, I think it's one of the top environments on the slate. I think I would rank it up there in like a top 3. I think with Detroit, Arizona, Philadelphia, New Orleans. I do think this game has a disadvantage like compared to those games. It's just tough to stack this game because like Zay Flowers is a little bit overpriced, and then like Lamar Jackson's expensive. So like you end up wanting to do some kind of like Lamar Jackson, CeeDee Lamb, Zay Flowers lineup, and it's just not like doesn't project as well as it should because like all of the pieces are a little bit too expensive.
Right.
Having said that, that tends to like affect ownership more than it should. Because what if the other 2 games bust and this game just goes like this game could easily go berserk? Like we can see Lamar Jackson getting like a 70-yard rushing touchdown. Suddenly he's the quarterback you absolutely need to have, no matter doesn't matter the price. And Dak Prescott is actually like affordable. CeeDee Lamb's just like a little bit too expensive when there's so much other like good value at wide receiver. But I'll say that out of the really expensive wide receivers, I think CeeDee Lamb is probably my favorite. So,
it's ownership adjusted, John.
Yeah,
it's ownership
okay.
adjusted.
I think that's fair. And I think I probably will be playing more Dallas stacks than Ravens stacks, just because like, the Ravens pieces are just a little bit too expensive.
Right. It's easy. It's easier to play Prescott plus Lamb plus Ferguson than it is to play Jackson plus anyone.
Yeah, I agree. I'm going to end up with some weird looking lineups that stack this game with like 2 tight ends, like where I'm going to have like Dak Prescott and like Ferguson or the whoever, first and can't play the backup tight end,
right,
and then like Isaiah Likely or Mark Andrews or whatever.
Right.
So, but yeah, so I think that's good. Yeah, I can do A and B.
Okay. The last game on the slate, the 49ers at the Rams. This total is 43.5. The 49ers are without Christian McCaffrey, now without Deebo Samuel. George Kittle isn't even he's not in doubt, but maybe even he doesn't even play this game. The Rams are out. Puka Nacua. They got a receiving core of like no one's. And they have an offensive line of even more no ones. All these guys are going to be chalky. I mean, like if you're playing, the 49ers are going to be the chalkiest team on the slate because they still have a 25 implied team. That's how bad the Rams are. The 49ers have their 2 best skill position players out, and they're still nearly a touchdown favorite on the road to the Rams. I think, although Purdy is not going to be that owned, he's if you use like lineup HQ and you use stack rules, it's hard not to get Purdy, Ayuk, Kittle lineups or Purdy, Mason, Ayuk, Kittle lineups also. Like Jordan Mason at 6,200, nice try, DraftKings. Right? It's like he was underpriced last week, and now he's still. I mean, dude, you're probably playing Jordan Mason even at 8,300 on FanDuel, so you're definitely playing him at 6,200 on DraftKings, especially with Deebo out now. I mean, much more likely to rely on the run and more rushing work for Mason. The interesting piece in this game is Kyren Williams, because I think people don't trust the Rams, but it's quite possible that they just run the ball like 30 times and just hope for the best. I like these. I like these as cash game plays. I think Jordan Mason, I'm much more likely to have Jordan Mason in most of my lineups than Ayuk or Kittle because he's way underpriced at 6,200. But I just think the stack is going to be way overowned. And do I really want to play Stafford, Robinson, Parkinson lineups? Or Whittington or Johnson or Atwell or I don't want to attach myself to the Rams offense really much at all, unless I'm just taking a shot on Kyron Williams. And I just don't want to eat a Purdy, Ayuk, Kittle lineup and just like, well, I need 1% on players around them. And I think it's more likely that this game is fine, but not like, not excessive. Like maybe Jordan Mason cracks 25 points and it ends up in the winning GPP lineup, but maybe none of these other people do.
Yeah, I think I see it basically the same way. I think Kittle's very much at risk for missing this game. I think Adam Schefter described him as unlikely to play. That was yesterday's. We'll see if he gets in the, we'll see what the Friday practice report will obviously be very important. I think if Kittle misses, I'm less interested in all the pieces from this game because like that starts to get absurd. Like if you're missing Debo, you're missing Christian McCaffrey, you're missing Kittle, and you're left with Brandon Ayuk and Jordan Mason. I think then Ayuk and Mason will start to see like absurd ownership. Jordan, but I don't know. I did not tag Jordan Mason last week, and I like tried to say I was going to be under the field. I think he ended up being a little bit higher owned than we were projecting, which I was expecting. But I think I ended up right around the field at like 25, or I think I had like 25 or 30%. He wasn't in the winning lineup that I had on FanDuel, but it's tough. Like because his rushing prop is 92.5 yards. That's like 15 yards higher than any other player playing this week. Like the prop market absolutely believes that he is, he's got a really, really good chance of getting 100 yards. And you can actually see a situation where the Rams just can't do anything with all the pieces they're missing on offense, but the 49ers can just run the ball. So they do. So I may end up, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to deal with like Ayuk if Kittle does miss the game. But I don't know. I think you'd have to consider putting the 40. Like I'd much rather play the 49ers. I just realistically am going to end up with a lot of 49ers pieces, like way more so than the Colts and Dolphins. So I think I'd have to put them at least at B, but I would keep the Rams at D. And this does give us our two humps.
Right.
So
my inclination of putting the 49ers on C was all on just ownership purposes.
Yeah.
Right. It's just that it's like, because we're talking about stacks here. We're not just talking about the players. So like the 49ers stack is like Purdy +2 is just easy to make and projects well. And even if you don't want to play Purdy, if optimizers are going to just start shoving in Purdy once all the 49ers are values, that I just think it's going to be wildly overowned for the ceilings enough to put it down at C. But if we want to keep with the two humps, I'm fine with keeping the two. Actually, let's make it purely two humps. Let's get rid of the C. Would you rather put the Dolphins in the B tier or the D tier?
Probably B.
And the Colts we're putting in the D tier. Is that good? Are we good?
Yeah. Yep.
So nothing in the C. We're just two humps.
Yeah.
It's a bimodal week.
Yeah. You know how I like my nice, sideways normal curves. But
right.
This is definitely like a 2-hump week.
Okay, well, let's make it even more even. And we need to put two B tier teams into the bottom of A tier. So you got the Browns, the Vikings, the Eagles, the Seahawks, the Lions, the Ravens, the 49ers, and the Dolphins. What two teams, ownership adjusted, would you move up to the A tier? And consider them an A- tier. A-.
Yeah. I would put Detroit up there. Like I think we should be trying to get over the field maybe on like Jameson Williams or David Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs. Like they're kind of in like this weird pricing zone where there's other guys that are going to be way more popular, but like you wouldn't be shocked if Gibbs or Montgomery or Jameson Williams like just puts out an outstanding game. Sam Laporta. I definitely want to get to like some Amon-Ra St. Brown. Probably just not going to be over the field just because he is like a little bit too expensive. And so yeah, if we needed one more team, let's see. I'd probably put the Eagles up there. Like it's gonna.
Okay, we have it now. It's all nice and even for you, John.
Yeah. All right. That's perfect.
That's fine. Last question before we get out of here. What would I know you typically play like 150? What percentage of lineups do you think are you going to play that doesn't contain a single 49er. So really the question comes in is like, would you rather, like, the best game environments are like the Eagles, Saints, even the Cardinals, Lions, like those two games. Let's take those two games as the two best environments. Would you rather play any 49er in lineup? I always try to make these little scenarios for like the single entry type of people. So let's say you have a choice of a lineup to play in the spy. You have a choice of either playing any of the players in the Eagles game and the Lions game, right? Those games. But if you do, you can't play any 49er in your lineup. Like you can't play Mason, you can't play Ayuk, you can't play any 49er. Or you play a 49er or multiple 49ers in your lineup, but you can't play anyone from the Eagles Saints game or the Lions Cardinals game. Which would you rather? Would you rather have the 49er and none of the two best game environments, or would you rather have the best two game environments and none of the 49ers?
I think what the game environments and none of the 49ers. Because I think we got to see what happens with Kittle, but I do think that what's going to happen is like if Kittle misses, I think ownership's going to gravitate to the 49ers even more so. And I think it should go the other way because I think then it becomes a situation where like, well, maybe that's just too many injuries and the offenses in that game, maybe both like, kind of flounder a little bit and maybe both teams are just trying to get out of there, like get out of there, get healthy. Some team gets a 14-0 lead and all right, let's just everybody like just go home. So yeah, I would rather play like the good game environments and hope that like Jordan Mason fails than, and it's possible. I might end up under the field. But I think it's gonna be like 40% owned. So, but he doesn't catch passes. It's tough to pass over the running back. Like the prop market has him as the most likely player to score a touchdown and the highest rusher by far. So, yeah, but if there's
you just have to fade 100 yards and a touchdown, John, and even then 100 yards and a touchdown is 19 points. So I mean, right. That's not like unfadeable, right?
Yeah, I agree. And like it's like I might have Jordan Mason and like I might have him by far my highest owned running back. I might have him at 30-35%, and I might be under the field. So I may be sitting there on Sunday like rooting against Jordan Mason. So yeah, I'd rather play the good game environments and fade the 49ers entirely than vice versa.
Okie doke. So what other content do you have coming up here? Premium wise, you have Hitting the Nuts stuff. You got the Solo Ship show. I mean, tell people where they could check you. You got the Sunday show. Yeah. What am I doing? You tell people.
Sure. Yeah. No. Expert survey. Is coming out. Got the lineup HQ tags. I'll have my Hitting the Nuts article coming out today. Doing Solo Ship with James to win at 3:30, and then just Sunday morning, 11 a.m. The GPP final takes with Neil Orfield and Eric Bimepour.
Okie doke. So hit that thumbs up button on your way out the door. Give us your thumbs. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit everything. Hit the notification bell to when we go live on the channel. We got tons of content. The Blitz show, the Solo Ship show, the Tournament Take show. Tomorrow we got Sunday block 9:30 a.m. for NFL Week 3. Starts with Dean and the guys, and then the Eric and John and Neil for 11 a.m. and then the last look at 12:15. That whole Sunday block 9:30 a.m. So check that out. And if you want our NFL premium stuff here, you get $15 off your first month by clicking on that link in the description below. I'll see you back on Monday, as I'm always here, Monday through Friday, 11 o'clock Eastern, talking about all things you're thinking about in daily fantasy, props, and pick'em on RotoGrinders Today.